I guess what I'm here to talk to you about this afternoon is how we go about integrating 3D into the Arcgis platform. I guess when we talk about Esri, we all think about maps in 2D space. But really, what's going on right now is we are seeing a significant revolution in the way we capture data and the way we manage data. For us at Esri, it's not so much about a revolution in the way we're working, but it's an evolution of what we existingly do today. Most of what we do is just adding a third dimension to it all. The reason why this is occurring is we are seeing a huge resource of these sorts of imagery sources coming through now, from LiDAR. I mean, say you go back 7 years ago, we had LiDAR at 1 point per square metre. We're now talking 60, 70, 80 points per square metre. We're seeing the oblique imagery coming through as well. So not just your NADAR imagery, we're seeing other sources of imagery. And textured meshes, UAVs. How many people in this room have flown a drone now? If I asked that question a couple of Aussies ago, I would have seen one. I've flown a drone for the last 2 years. So the sources of information, the readily source of information in that third dimension is becoming increasingly more available. But one of the things that's really going on in the space right now, who has an Xbox at home or a PlayStation? Yeah, and that's an immersive environment. And in those spaces, what we're seeing is that we expect that kind of performance. We expect that in our business environment. So what we see at home as a consumer environment, we want to see that in our business environment as well. So why do we want to go that way? Well, you look at a map in 2D, and a map in 2D, basically you're top down and you're looking at it. You're not getting much concept what's there. But what we're really being able to do with 3D, it's an immersive environment. You can take that building and you can spin it. You can put a 3D dome over the top of it, and we can basically understand exactly where things are happening. It gives us that better realism of what's going on. And the value of 3D is really intrinsic. For example, that pipe, those pipes and wells that you see there, we all think of a well as going straight down in the ground. Traditionally, no, wells go down and underneath and around. Putting it in 3D, you get an understanding of exactly where they sit. And we get more accurate behaviour, and we understand, it gives us better understanding about what things are going on as well. So the Arcgis platform is evolving, and we're evolving to a 3D platform. I was in at DNRM just on Wednesday this week, and they have already started that advancement into that space, using Arcgis as the platform to do that. We're seeing many sort of environments coming through like that as well. And what we've seen is the Arcgis platform in the last couple of years has really evolved into that 3D space. We're seeing web services starting to come out now that are fully 3D enabled. Esri has produced an open standard that has been adopted by the wider community now as a format called i3S that we can use across the globe. Anyone can get access to it, anyone can produce it. We're even producing story maps, no longer in 2D, but the ability to produce them in 3D as well. It's becoming more accessible for everyone else out in the environment. How are we doing this, and where are those advancements going? The big one, I think, at the moment is in the BIM technology. Back in October last year, Esri announced a relationship with Autodesk, and I'll talk more about it in a little while, but the ability to bring building models and see them in context, it's a big innovation for a lot of people, and a lot of organisations today are wanting that capability. On the mobile, how many of you have got, we've all seen maps on these devices, but we're now able to take 3D, put the scene on this device, and be able to turn it and see it in place as well. So we're seeing mobile scene packages starting to become available. And in urban planning, that is a big area that Esri's working on at the moment. We're going to talk about that later this afternoon, about what Esri's doing in that space with government models, zoning plans, building plans, those sorts of things. And as I said before, the i3S and 3D content, it's a very big area for Esri. So how are we facilitating this? Well, how many of you are using Arcgis Pro now? Oh, come on. Really? Arcgis Pro has been out for, what, 2.5, 3 years now. It is a 3D immersive environment. ArcMap is very restrictive in what you can do. Any developments that we have now in the GIS software is going into Arcgis Pro. If I can't say one more important thing today, try it. Go out and use it. It is a significant product for that space. And then City Engine. The City Engine's our design and development for the city environment. Very specialised product, but it's even been used by companies like Disney to build out some of the animation films that you see, some of the buildings that you see in that. built with Disney. City Engine builds those scenes for us. It also is doing some stuff in 3D that I'll talk about in a little while as well, or virtual reality. And then we have other applications that consume that 3D stuff. Who's using Arcgis Earth? One person. So Arcgis Earth is free. Get this, you can produce 3D data in your platform, you can pull it out, and you can pass it into Arcgis Earth. Anyone can download Arcgis Earth, connect to a scene, and start to utilize it. Your LiDAR data, your 3D data, even your 2D data in a globe environment. Drone to Map is our production environment. So those of us that have flown drones, there was more of us who flew drones a moment ago. Drone to Map gives us the 3D meshes that we talk about. It gives us the point clouds as well that we want to use. And to facilitate that, Web App Builder in the web has now got 3D templates that we can utilize. And Web Scene Viewers, where we actually author these environments up. Web Scenes are significant because this is where we hold all that 3D information. It's where we effectively build a map into 3D. Very much like we build a map today in 2D, in the web maps, we also have web scenes which collect all those 3D data together. You can extrude in there as well, you can label in there, and everything is responsive in that space. Scene layers are specifically things like how we manage the caches, how we manage the point clouds, how we bring in those different levels of details of buildings as well. The scene layer environment. And what we're going to see next year is the ability to build a scene and then take it offline on our mobile devices, walk into an area where there is no reception, and then look at that on our device and say, well, that's what it's going to look like, and here's where I'm standing right now, because it will position you still. Mobile scene package is going to be a significant advantage for people like miners as well. So some of the things you may see in the 3D environment, you're going to see 3D objects. A lot of you today may have seen the BIM model that's out there right now. They are individual buildings and individual models that are fully textured rendered. You can have them as plain or textured rendered, doesn't matter. And the scene optimizes the display for that. Meshes, so partners like Nearmap, like Aerometrics, like Vricon, they're actually pulling out and delivering these photo meshes for us. Fully rendered photorealistic meshes in high detail. Broad acreage. The city of Brisbane has just recently had an entire data set delivered by Aerometrics at 2.5 centimetres resolution. It's very, very powerful. Come up in the booth after this and I'll show you. It's really, really good. And the Department of Environment here is commissioned that along with the Cross River Rail as well. So it is really, really important in the area. And it gives you that context. Now, I've been in this game for quite a while. I started, those industry white papers were LiDAR. And that's where I've done a lot of my early work. And I wrote papers on how to actually pull LiDAR apart. But LiDAR is dense, billions and billions of points. And for a long time, the nirvana was, how can we get these point clouds streaming across the internet? How can we get them down? Well, we can do that now. Web scenes allow us to do that, bring these LiDAR data sets together. The challenge now is, what do we do with it? How do we analyse that? And that's where Esri's putting its development efforts into right now. And then I think this is one of the big innovations, as I said before, the ability to take a mesh, drop a building model inside that mesh. So you can see here, for example, this is in the city of Adelaide. And we've got the exhibition buildings being built up in the back there. When the mesh was taken, there was no building there, and this is how the model fits inside it. That's the power of the BIM model. And you're able to click on that, get the information out of that, and understand exactly what's going into place on there. Very, very powerful. And this is where I see the real benefits of this. So how are we achieving this? BIM is a 3D space. GIS now is a 3D space together as well. One of the important things with this is that BIM fuels the context in GIS. You want to understand where that building model sits in the real world. That's where the GIS comes into play. Because often you'll see a BIM model is always done in isolation and then you integrate it with something. And what we're seeing now is our web services, our 3D web services, are being drawn into those InfraWorks products, into those AutoCAD products, into those BIM model products that allow you to give that context in the product space itself. We're seeing a huge change in this space. We're seeing this basically a merging of technologies coming together. But really, really importantly, is that Esri will not create BIM for you. We'll always be a consumer of that environment. And they will always be a consumer of ours. And that's how we'll work together. That's what we're saying here. We're not reinventing that BIM cycle. Because Esri is designed as a GIS, an information system, a provider of context. The BIM is the life cycle. The BIM application is the life cycle, the development, the changes. We will always consume those and push them through. Here you see the traditional workflow. Very much it's been copy, copy, paste, paste, bring it in. Very, very slow, very hard way to do things. And you can see here in this diagram exactly how all the workflows exist. Who's used FME or data interoperability extension? Yeah, there's quite a few of you. That's the way you've traditionally had to get that in. And that's been a challenge. I try to use it. There's a great thing called the quick import tool, which you just go, I'll have one of those, and it comes in. Whereas other people need to use it more intensely, and so FME has certainly been the path for that. So what we're doing now, and our partnership with Autodesk, allows us to take these formats and look at all the rich attributes that are in those formats. So traditionally, CAD files such as DWGs, all we've read in the past has been the lines, the points, the colour styles. We never had access to all those block information. So the partnership gives us access to all that block information as well. And likewise with the Revit models, all the information about what type of window it is, what's the metal surrounding that goes around that window. All that information is now coming through into the GIS environment, giving us a much richer environment to work with. So the areas in green now you see is where Esri and Autodesk are working together. And importantly, there's the top one there that says Safe Software is creating I3S models. That means that things like stuff coming from InfraWorks, for example, or coming from IFC format, they can come in and go straight out to a scene model. That's powerful because you're able to now get an integration of all these different data formats together. Key, data interoperability. Here's an example of a BIM model in Europe. This is about 3 different models, and just to show you more so the level of detail that occurs inside these products. It's not just about the walls and the building and the windows and the ceilings and all that, but it's also things like going into the interiors. Where are all those seats placed? Where are all the desks placed? All that. And then the level of information that goes with each of those as well. There's a lot of power that's associated with each of those. Even what type of seat it is as well. You can get all that information coming through. But buildings is one place. The other place that we're seeing a real groundswell in using BIM models in the engineering space. So rail design, road design. You want to see how a building or how a model looks. And then understand, not just in the context, but then you'd like to see it inside the other application, the BIM application. So what we're going to be doing is providing links to side-by-side applications. Click on the BIM model inside the GIS, have it pop up in the web application that's associated with that for the AutoCAD or the Revit environment. The power of being able to mix these 2 different data sources together is coming through now in the product environment we're working in. So really, we're combining technologies together. And that really leads us to really smart innovations about building the digital twin, being able to understand what's going on in our cities, being able to see exactly what those building designs are going to look like in reference to things like those textured meshes we talk about from our partners. They're significant enhancements that improve our understanding of how our cities look. And this is an area that Esri is really keen on and working on. And it's an area now that we're starting to change the way we deliver product. Up until now, we delivered product like ArcGIS Pro. It's a single product. Or you go and talk about the platform. It's ArcGIS Server. But now what we're doing is we're bringing through a series of solution products. So the first one there is Hub. And Hub is about community engagement. So the ability to take some of those 3D information and provide engagement back to your community. So you want to actually provide a building plan, a new development coming through, all the information that goes with it. You put it out onto your OpenGIS portal through ArcGIS Online, and Hub enables you to do that very simply and very easily because it has various themes associated with it that are very common for a lot of organisations. ArcGIS Hub now has been released since about September, October last year. And there's quite a number of councils and larger organisations picked it up to provide it as a public information and a public collaboration environment. Arcgis Indoors is an interesting one. It's again another solution product, but it's about taking that level of information and providing it from an indoor perspective. So the ability to even say, who's in this room at 9 o'clock in the morning, and how many people do I expect in this room? That kind of capability. Or, how do I get to session 3 in room, I don't know what the other two rooms are because I'm actually only in this one, but it will route you to those ones as well. Indoors provides those capabilities. And also, have you seen those indoor LiDARs that give you the inside of it? We can put those inside there as well. This is a quick example of the San Diego Exhibition Centre, where we hold our conference every year. And at the moment, we're looking at the map in 2D. So this traditional way of looking at that data set. But what we're able to do with this is start to look at the different floor levels. So pull the GIS apart and look at the different associated floors that come in with that. What we can do then is say, just go and do a simple search, like you would in an ordinary 2D environment. We go and locate items that are there. But what it also gives us is then the ability to provide all the information associated with that as well. And you can see I'm going to different building environments there. But then also, I forgot what was actually in this slide. Then the ability to then go turn it on its side and then look at that in a third dimension as well. So you can see there are a number of ways that we can work with this indoor space. Because in reality, indoors, outdoors has GIS capabilities all the way through. We're able to see exactly what's available. You see now the components are associated with that as well. And Arcgis Indoors is a new product solution that's going to be available probably in the next couple of weeks as well. There's been quite a bit of development going on that. But I guess the one that is really gathering a lot of attention and the one that's gaining a lot of momentum right now is Arcgis Urban. For so long, things such as zoning plans, building plans, codes of practice, they've been held in Word documents, been held in spreadsheets. So when someone comes along with a new building they want to actually propose, it's got to go through all this rigor of understanding what goes on without actually a visualised information. One of the things we're finding, Brisbane's finding it, Sydney's finding it, Melbourne's finding it, the amount of growth that's going on in our cities these days is amazing. Boston here, $1.3 trillion worth of growth going on right now. That's a huge amount. How do you manage all that in a visual sense? And I guess that's one of the biggest challenges. So what we're seeing is that Arcgis Urban is answering those challenges for that 3D space. It's a fully 3D interactive environment. For anyone who's used City Engine, there's things like rule-based design in there. We now getting that in the web. So we're able to conceptualize zone changes. And it's really simple to use. I can't emphasize that enough. I picked it up 2 weeks ago and started using it. And in its beta form, it really does work quite well. And we're going to see more capabilities come through shortly. Key things with it is we put things in context. So you get the building models, you get the trees, you get the terrain, all those sorts of traditional things. But then what we're also doing is getting things like population indicators. So you want us to understand if I put a building in, how's that population going to change? You want to understand things like green index. If I put a building in, how far is it till I get to the nearest park? But then also things like, okay, putting a new building in there, what's the shadowing that goes along with that? How does that impact on my surrounding community, on the transport network? Those are the sorts of things that Urban's going to answer, those sorts of questions. And then things like, if I'm going to go and subdivide and put in new zoning regulations, what sort of buildings can I do there? What's the residential versus the commercial versus the retail capabilities in there? That's the sort of things Arcgis Urban is bringing to the table. So if I look at zoning and different land use plans, we're able to scenario manage those. What does it look like if I put these boundaries on there? What does it look like if I put those on there? Quite a number of different components. And then the building models as well. So we're able to have design review, zone planning, all in a 3D immersive environment. And the significant thing there as well, because it's all web services driven, Arcgis Urban is going to allow for digital lodgement. So you'll be able to get a BIM, come in, and then plop in place if it's been geo-registered correctly. And so that reduces the requirement on some of your end users as well. See the impacts that are going on. This is a quick video that gives you an idea of what Arcgis Urban looks like. So you can see this is City of Boston. You can see the number of projects that are going on in there. And this is very recent data that they're working with as well. There's a lot of projects going on in that space. We're able to do things like, as I said before, look at the indicators. So you can see those here. We can look at the population. And significantly with this, there's two ways of looking at the population. We're looking at it as a general populace by the heat map that you see there, but also as by district as well. And when you put a new building in there, those spikes increase. Those reporting capabilities increase as well. And here we're going to see exactly where that green index goes in there as well. So that's a quick idea of what urban's about. I've been asked a lot in the last 5 weeks or so, how do I get onto urban? What can I do? There isn't one state government that I've spoken to that doesn't want to join this program. So at the moment, we are in this private beta phase. So we're working with City of Melbourne to put urban in. We're also working with Sydney as well to get that going as well. Boston's the fully functional demo site that we're working with. But come the new year, Esri is expecting this to be available to the general public. So if you want to hop on the beta, you go into the early adopter site, we will be able to accommodate you and get in. The key with getting this, though, is bringing your data in the right model format. So Esri is going to provide documentation around how to bring that data in as well and how to model it up. And then around about July, UC time, we should see this as a general available product. Solution product is important because it's not just the web engine. There's a number of other tool sets that will go along with this as well. Oops. The other area we're seeing a large amount of growth is in virtual reality. I mean, say we are seeing things like the Unreal Engine and the VR goggles starting to come through now. We're starting to play with that at home. Remember when I started off the presentation, I said, what we're at home, what we're doing in the consumer market, we want to see that in the GIS space. We want to be able to do that in the commercial space. So what we're seeing here is this is a sample of the Unreal Engine with those VR goggles. And you can see it's a totally immersive environment. Using that, we can start to zoom in, pan around inside here, and get an understanding of exactly what's going on in that urban space. It's a powerful tool set, and it's another way of visualizing our GIS data. And as we go forward, you're going to start to see standard GIS tools be made available. So we're now delving into there, and then more tools will become available soon. So, to sum up then, what's the key that we see behind this? I think anything, even like that urban data set you saw a moment ago from Boston, getting the 3D data sets together and getting them as accurate 3D data sets is really, really important. You get that through, and that's just a starting place. I guess the other really important point here is there's no point putting 3D on the web if it's slow. You have to be able to see that, put it on here, and see it by pushing a button and have it viewable. If you don't, then people are just going to throw it away as useless. So the performance engine that goes along with that. So that's where Esri's put a lot of work into that scene layer by providing a way to push that out. And data interoperability, the ability to import different 3D formats, make them displayable, that is really, really important. If we can actually start to transmit different data sources across platforms, then we're going to make this better for everyone around. There are so many environments out there today where we just cannot get data into and out of. Esri's philosophy is put in a web scene, make it open, make it available to everyone that can consume that. And being able to move seamlessly between different environments and see the same thing. So whether I'm in ArcGIS Pro, which can consume a web scene, whether I'm on a web map, which consumes a web scene, or whether I'm on mobile, you want it to look and behave the same because then end users feel comfortable with what they're looking at. These are some of the things. When we see it like that, we get the answers we need, and then they're presented in 3D and we understand. And in essence, that's what we all want to do, isn't it? We all want to understand that 3D environment. We want to make it easiest for ourselves. There's heaps and heaps of references about this information out there. The Esri Autodesk collaboration is ramping up more and more. We're seeing more things starting to come through. The generic IFC relationship, we have information about that. And then the Arcgis Urban and Indoors, there's lots of information out there now, and we're starting to gather more pace. It is an area that I think we're going to see it sort of take off in the next couple of years significantly. Hope that gives you a brief understanding anyway of where Esri is going, and I hope you enjoyed that.